Either you're here because you're curious about the fourth trimester, maybe you're in your third trimester and, you know, trying to figure out what to prepare for. And some of you guys may have just clicked on the fourth trimester because you're like, girl, what is a fourth trimester? Outlook on it all now, we survived. Let's get these babies, ladies. To make those rainbows in my mind. What's up, fertility fam? How are you? I am Tanika. Thanks for clicking on Simply Tanika. If you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This is going to be my fourth trimester story, but first I want to tell you about my third trimester. I know you clicked on the video because it said fourth trimester, you know, YouTube-y things. I'll make it easy for you though. There will be chapters in here, so if you just click on the fast forward, you can skip ahead if you just want to go straight to the fourth trimester. Thanks for being here. All right, let's get started on the third trimester, because at the end of, I'm just opening my phone, I've got notes in here. At the end of my pregnancy, I was just very focused on my pregnancy. I was a little bit overwhelmed, well, more than a little bit. So I didn't video, so I just want to document it for posterity, right? Okay, so third trimester for me, I was diagnosed with polyhydramnios. I was diagnosed with polyhydramnios, which is basically excess amniotic fluid. So baby was drinking and peeing quite a bit in there. And so that when I got diagnosed with that, I had to do one stress test. That stress test came back fine. My blood pressure was never elevated. I didn't have gestational diabetes, so I didn't have to do any more stress tests after that, thank God. But I did have to start going in weekly for ultrasound. At 32 weeks, baby was breech. The doc said it wasn't really an issue unless the baby was still breech at 34 weeks. Then we had to start talking about options. And when I say doc, I mean the maternal fetal medicine doctor. I'm sure most of you guys know, but just in case, maternal fetal medicine doctor is an OB/GYN, just with a little more training. So I didn't go to a separate OB/GYN and a maternal fetal medicine doctor. I just went to the MFM, which made it a lot easier for me in my crazy schedule. While I was pregnant, I had acupuncture all 3 trimesters. I continued it until I was 36 weeks pregnant. I went all the way through my pregnancy. I delivered at 39 weeks, 6 days. And so a day before my due date, basically. So almost 40 weeks, but not quite, 1 day shy. During the third trimester, my symptoms were difficulty breathing, mainly because of the extra fluid in my uterus. Like I just felt like an Oompa Loompa, or Violet. Remember Violet from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Wasn't it Violet who got purple and big and giant? That's what I felt like. So it was difficult, like getting up and down the subway stairs. Any stairs were kind of complicated for me. I live in New York. All of the subway stops are not ADA compliant yet. They're working on it. So getting up and down those stairs was a little challenging. Luckily, it wasn't too hot or too cold. This was like April, May. It wasn't too bad, but it was definitely like I would get to the top of the stairs and I would need a breath. I remember one time I went in to get an ultrasound, and when I got to the check-in at the doctor's office, I was breathing really hard. They were like, "Are you okay? Are you going into labor?" I was like, "No, I'm just trying to catch my breath." So, and it wasn't like, you can't really feel it. Well, that's not true. I could feel it while I was walking, but when I stopped walking, that's when it really was like, I realized like how much more oxygen I needed. I had no more insomnia in the third trimester, which was nice. Like I had been suffering from insomnia second trimester. I was able to sleep in the third trimester, which was nice, which also gave me more energy. I had an extremely high sex drive in the third trimester. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if there's some like biological thing that increases your sex drive, so you'll have more sex, so that helps bring you into labor, because that was one of the things on the list of like helping labor was sex and or masturbation if you didn't have a partner. Fun fact, I haven't had sex since August of 2021. So, you know, single mom by choice life. Just single by choice. As far as baby's movement, I never really felt like kicks per se. I had a lot of feelings of flutters and bubbles, even in the third trimester. I think that was due to the polyhydramnios, right? Because there's so much water or so much fluid in there. So I don't know that he was actually making contact because there was so much fluid in there. I just think it was hard for him to like actually make contact with the outside of the uterus because of all of the fluid. Also, the way my placenta was positioned, there was sort of a drape, so that it connected at the fundus at the top here of my uterus, and then it draped. So I had an anterior and a posterior placenta. It was very strange. I would check it in all of my ultrasounds, and sometimes they would get it wrong. Like after you have an ultrasound, they, write out a report and it's in the portal, at least at my doctor's office. And so I would read it, and sometimes it would there was one note that like the placenta was blocking the cervix, which obviously, or it was close to the cervix or something she couldn't see. And I was like, that's alarming, because you don't want the placenta too close, because you could have what is that, when the placenta covers the cervix? There's a word for it. Whatever that word is, it's not a good sign. So I called the doctor to ask her about it, and then she was like, no, they incorrectly wrote up these notes, blah blah blah. I referred back to your prior 4, and your placenta is located at your fundus. So anyway, that I think contributed to like not feeling actual kicks, but rather feeling the flutters and the bubbles. And then like once I started feeling the flutters frequently enough, I realized I had already been feeling them. I just wasn't identifying them as flutters. They say with your second pregnancy you're more likely to feel that, but my prior pregnancy was like 29 years before, so who remembers what that felt like? I did feel, eventually I felt flutters and bubbles, and I was able to get a picture. I got a couple of videos of the baby moving feet, I think, I don't know, body parts up against my tummy, or maybe it was a ripple from, I don't know, but I saw like little movement and I was able to video that, which was pretty cool. Baby had a lot of hiccups and was doing a lot of gymnastics, just because when I'm saying like flutters, it felt like as the baby got bigger they were stronger flutters, but it felt like it was like bloop, bloop, like baby was flipping over or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, it just felt like there was a lot of gymnastics going on in there. My cravings were lemonade. I loved lemonade, still loving lemonade, and chocolate shakes or Frosties. I also had a thing for sour Skittles. So at work, I was working on a project. One of my coworkers would always bring me sour Skittles, and then everybody tried to talk me into dipping my fries into my Frosty. I didn't try it. It did not sound appetizing, but we were talking about it in the pantry, and like 5 people jumped in. Oh, you've never had that? Oh my God, you gotta have that. I'm like, That was basically it for my 3rd trimester. I enjoyed it. I was nervous, scared. I was overwhelmed, not with the pregnancy, but just with life in general, like trying to figure out how I'm gonna wrap up everything at work. How am I gonna get my house ready? My sister came out to help me with the house. We did a lot of knowledge transfer at work. I still ended up working the week after I delivered, just because I had some things to tie up. I had some stuff to send to the lawyers, but it was, for the most part, after that I was out and done and they had it covered. All right, so let's go into the 4th trimester. So in my 4th trimester, I have to start off with, I went into the hospital to be induced on May 31st. My first day off from work was the day before, May 30th. I had to get a COVID test, and then I went to the hospital. After 2 days of induction, I had not dilated past 4 centimeters. Don't worry, it'll be in my birth story. I am gonna get it out, I promise, for those of you guys who have watched me for a while. It's coming. So I ended up with an emergency C-section, long story short, on Friday, June 2nd. And so I had the baby at that point. First, let me go back though, because I know some people are like, either you're here because you're curious about the 4th trimester, maybe you're in your 3rd trimester and, trying to figure out what to prepare for. And some of you guys may have just clicked on the 4th trimester because you're like,
girl, what is a 4th trimester?
The definition for the 4th trimester. First few months of postpartum motherhood are called the 4th trimester. Both mom and baby are getting used to new situations, right? Even if you've had a baby before, like this is the first time having this baby. And so just at this point in your life, so all of it is new and you're still under doctor's care. It's still about you and baby, just as it was in 3rd trimester, but it's about the baby being on the outside. And also, you having the baby on the outside. So what's that experience like for the baby? What's that experience like for mom? Because pretty much in the 3rd trimester, you could go anywhere do anything, with a few exceptions of like can't fly late, shouldn't be on amusement park rides. But for the most part, you're not looking for a babysitter, right? Like once you have the baby, it's like your primary focus is the baby, and you kind of fall by the wayside. But you want to try and not fall by the wayside, because you got to take care of yourself too, right? If mom is not okay, baby is not okay. I'm just going to talk about, for me, physical, emotional, and mental, what I went through, like mentally what I went through during the first trimester. So started off with the emergency cesarean. I'm saying emergency because that wasn't planned. I was awake during it. I know sometimes people have it, it's such an emergency that they have to be knocked out. So I was able to be awake. I had an epidural. So while I was in the hospital after the cesarean, my pain was well managed. I was walking the same night that I had the surgery, and they didn't want to take my catheter out that night because they were saying once it's out, you have to go to the bathroom, and so, or we'll have to put it back in. So like, let's give you one night and then we'll see. At that point, I still had my epidural line in, so I was getting, I was nice. I was feeling no pain. When I'm saying no pain, I mean, obviously there's pain, but like I was medicated, so it was suppressed. When I got home, we stayed in the hospital for a week. One, because my creatinine was high, so they had to run a bunch of tests on my kidneys. I had to have an ultrasound. Baby was losing weight, and I had a boy, by the way. So he was losing weight from the time that we were in there. But I also think because I was on IV for 2 days, that contributed to both my creatinine being high and to him losing weight, because he was definitely digesting breast milk. He was peeing and pooping. He was peeing a lot. So at first I believe that was from the IV, and I talked to the doula about it. She thinks so as well. Like, I'm not just making this stuff up. Ended up there for a week. I got released on a Tuesday. Get released until the evening. The thing was, is it was too late to get my pain meds, and I tried to call the next day. They don't deliver them because they're a controlled substance, and so I had no way to get my meds for the first 2 weeks that I was home. Why, you say? I needed help because I was only meant to carry nothing heavier than the baby, is what I was told, and he was like 7 pounds, so nothing heavier than 7 pounds. So in order to get in and out of a car to get to the pharmacy, I needed help lifting up him in the car seat to get in the car. For the first 2 weeks, I did not have my pain meds at home, which was not fun. I did use a heating pad when I got home, which, let me show you. These guys I used when I got home, but let me go back because I'm getting ahead of myself. My pain was well managed. My legs, my entire legs were swollen, and everyone was saying, you know, it's just like when you were pregnant, like the nurses, and I was like, my legs did not swell when I was pregnant. I was very lucky that way. Like one day I had a swollen ankle on my left side, but when I'm saying swollen in the hospital, it was swollen like all the way up to my thigh. It was so huge. Like my pores looked open, like it looked like strawberry, like a big strawberry, my thighs did. So they have these things in the hospital, compression socks to help with circulation, and they like pump air through and pump. But if you, apparently I kick a lot in my sleep, I kept unhooking it, or when I had to go to the bathroom, because I was going to the bathroom like every 30 minutes, no lie, I would have to unhook it and come back, and then it was beeping all night. So finally I just asked them like to remove it. They made me wear it for 2 days, and then I put on the compression socks that I brought to the hospital, and that took my swelling down like that. But obviously they're worried about blood clots, and they had given me heparin, but I had an allergic reaction to it. They stopped the heparin altogether. I didn't have to continue with that. I had my own compression socks, so that helped with if there was going to be any blood clot issues. Afterwards, everything was squishy. Like my abdomen went down fairly quickly. They have these belts that they give you in the hospital, like this white stretchy belt, like for binding. It was so big on me though. So luckily I had purchased a Freedom Mom belt. The Freedom Mom, that gave me a nice like snatch snug, because everything is squishy, and because there's a scar there, and like there's numbness. Some parts are numb, some parts are painful. Trust me, I knew when my meds were coming. I had it in my phone. I wanted to make sure nothing wore off before I got my next dose, but sometimes it took longer because they have to like check the meds out. Again, it's a controlled substance, so it takes a little bit longer. So I was like reminding them 10 minutes ahead of time, like it's coming up, get to going. Having the binder on helped like make everything feel secure, and just like not, because it was squishy and felt like it was hanging. I don't know, just having something to bind you helps. I loved it. Oh, I was gonna say too, when I was in my 3rd trimester, I used this belly band. It just helped support, because I did a lot of running around, well, running from meeting to meeting at work, and everything will be linked down below, all in my Amazon store. I used my FSA, flexible spending account. Some people might have an HSA, healthcare spending account, which is pre-tax, to buy most of my stuff that I took to the hospital. So I had that compression belt, I had my compression socks, abdomen was squishy. I was going to the bathroom every hour or so as I got rid of the IV fluid, and Sugar Bear was going probably about every 30 minutes or so. It was hotmess.com as far as lots of urine. His first day, what they call DOL, day of life, he was wide awake. Everyone was like, oh, they usually sleep on that 1st and 2nd day. He wanted to see the world. It was the cutest thing though. I loved it. I had waited so long for him, you know, it was 6 years in the wait. And so to have him, I don't know, it was like God was telling me, he's yours, he's here, he's healthy, he's fine, get to know him. So we hung out. We started tummy time that day, so we did it on my chest. I was nursing him like straight away. In the recovery room I started nursing him, but I didn't do tummy time at that point because I was still like, I couldn't feel my legs fully. So the nurse was there, the doula was there, my sister was there. When we got to the room, the postpartum room, I put him on my chest and he was doing tummy time then, because they can hold their head up, right? Because they also can root to the breast to feed. It's amazing. But yeah, anyway, we started it on day 1. So we were in the hospital for a week. After we got home, I had to go to the pediatrician at 9 o'clock the next morning because of Sugar Bear's weight. He almost lost 14% of his birth weight. He was just shy of 14%. We had to go Wednesday to get him weighed at the pediatrician, and then we had to go 2 days later, that Friday, which he was a week old at that point, to get him weighed. So we went every 3 days for the first 2 weeks. And then it got stretched out to a week until he was 3 weeks old. So he wasn't even a week old for that first appointment. And then we went at a week old, and we went every 3 days. And then once we hit 2 weeks, he didn't have to go again. And it was a week after that. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. We went a lot. He had to get weighed a lot. Then I've got 2 dogs. I've got 2 Yorkies. You've probably seen this one, Liberty, running around. So they had been kenneled at that point. And so they came back home 1 week after we were home. So not when Sugar Bear was 1 week old, but 1 week from when we got back. So it would have been like the next week. He was almost 2 weeks when the dogs came home. That was an adjustment for all 4 of us. The dogs, the baby, and me. It was very interesting. I already said I didn't get the pain meds for 2 weeks, so that was difficult. I could only have Tylenol. I only have 1 kidney, so I cannot take Motrin or any ibuprofen. Most people get Tylenol, Motrin, and then some controlled substance for their pain management. I only had Tylenol, so that was rough. I pretty much stayed in the bed. It scared me. Like one day trying to get down from the bed, I had the baby in my arms and I almost dropped him, and then I just like lost it and started crying. I was like pretty, angry, but I'm not sure who I was angry at. Angry, frustrated. I did not plan well for having a cesarean. I don't know why. I just didn't. I thought I was gonna go to a postpartum facility, which I still could have if I would have just had the cesarean, but having the complication of him having lost the weight and needing all of those checks made it difficult, because again, how was I gonna get from the postpartum facility to the pediatrician like every other day, and I can't lift him, right? And so that was a thing. Luckily, staying home, the pediatrician is in walking distance. It's like 5 doors down from our home, and so that wasn't a big deal. I could lift him to put him in the car seat. I just couldn't lift the car seat out. Luckily, I have the travel kit, so it was the car seat that fits in the stroller. So that was, oh my God, I can't even tell you. I don't know what I would have done without that, because I couldn't have worn him at that point because it was hard for me to stand. Like I could walk, but standing was difficult, and so I can't imagine like having to stand like to get on the elevator and go up and down the elevator with that weight on me. So that worked out. This is when I started using these heat patches. So these are amazing. They're actually and I think they come in like a pack of 6. They're good for up to 8 hours, and they're originally for menstrual pain relief. So there's a sticker on there. You take off the sticker, you actually apply the sticker to your underwear or your undergarment, garment, whatever you were wearing. I was wearing a diaper at that point. Sugar Bear and I both were wearing a diaper, not because I was using the bathroom on myself. Somebody asked me that. It wasn't for urine. It was, you know, for the blood that comes out. It's not a period. There's a word for it. I'll put it across the screen. For all, leukorrhea, I think is what it's called. To catch all of that. And so in order to have to do a bunch of laundry, it was easier for me to continue to use those. And they were actually pretty comfortable, to be honest. Like, I didn't mind them so much. So I used that, and I would stick the heating pad onto you take off the tape, put it on the little diaper part, and then just pull the diaper up. And after you take the tape off is what activates the heat. And they want you to not leave on a single pad for more than 8 hours. You can switch it out and put another one on, but it's like the one, you know, one use 8 hours, and then you need another one. So those came in clutch. So 2 weeks after we were home, I finally got my meds. That was heaven. I also had a televisit with the nurse, like a postpartum televisit with the nurse, and just asking me how I was doing. She wanted to see my scar. So that was interesting. I was on the bed. I'm trying to like balance on the bed so I can get up and show her the scar. It was all fine. You know, just checking on me. She asked me about my mental state. How was I doing? It was good. It was good to talk to a human. I missed the first one because I slept through it. I think that was like the first day I had the meds. I slept through that appointment like nobody's business. And then, so I had to reschedule it, but I still had it within that 2-week period. By 4 weeks, oh wait, I want to go back to my frustration. So I hadn't planned to be home. I wasn't prepared. So I didn't have enough food here because I thought I was going to be gone for a week. If I had it to do over again, if I had known, I would have prepared food. But it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Because if I would have prepared it and put it in the freezer, like lasagna and freezer meals, I would have been okay. Yeah, because I wouldn't have been able to cook. So prepared food or some sort of service like factor meals where I would just pop it into the microwave would have worked. So I ended up ordering delivery quite a bit. Some people did not want to bring it up, and I was like, I can't go downstairs. There's that whole thing. Like, most delivery people bring it up here, but sometimes you get those ones that are like, I'm gonna leave it in the lobby. Like, no. I was frustrated at that point. And then people kept wanting to visit, and I was just in no shape to have any visitors. One, I'm an introvert. Surprise, surprise. I am a gregarious introvert. I was drained just mentally after coming out of the hospital because the nurses are in there. Like, no lie, I feel like they were in there every hour. Not the same nurse, but like some sort of rotation. Somebody wanted to come and check my urine because I had to like pee in that little nun's hat in there because they wanted to see what my output was, giving me meds, taking blood, checking on the baby. They were coming in to weigh him, temperature. The lactation lady was coming in, the social worker was coming in. Finally, when the social worker came in, I was like, are you guys all coming in here to see the old lady who had a baby? And it was a black social worker on the weekend, and she started laughing. She was like, yeah, you're low-key, you're kind of famous in the maternity ward. And I was like, oh, great. So I had an extra parade of people come in to look at the old lady with the baby. Fun. Not. So I was just drained. And I knew I was going to be drained. So I had, you know, my sister had already flown home the day after Sugar Bear was born. So I had not made any plans for people to come over. People were inviting themselves over. They wanted to bring flowers. And I was just like, I have a new baby. Like, I don't know if the baby's allergic to flowers. I don't want to hold a conversation. Some people were like, well, help you with the baby. Like, I don't know what you're going to help me do. Like, I'm breastfeeding. So you can't give him a bottle. We're in the bedroom. Like, I'm just changing him in the bed. His little bassinet is in my bedroom. Like, we didn't go in there. So are you coming in my room to help him with the like, what I needed was somebody to say, I'm gonna come and clean and cook for you. Nobody said that, because that I would have sucked it up. If you're coming to clean and cook, come on, come through. But no, I was like frustrated, annoyed. I wanted to be alone, be quiet, and to connect with the baby. So part of the thing too is they were saying, like, when you have a C-section, it could impact your milk supply. Luckily, my milk did come in before I left the hospital. I had done a lot of skin to skin in the hospital, and I wanted to do skin to skin here. So I didn't want to have to get dressed and come into the living room to entertain people. Some people were offended, you know. I just had a baby. Cut me some slack. It's not about you. Anyway, by 4 weeks, I was physically better. I had rested a lot in the bed. Lots of food delivery, probably not the best for milk supply. It probably impacted my milk supply. I tried to get salads, but then I also was craving like Wendy's and that Frosty. So it is what it is. I focused on hydration, like that was important. I wasn't getting enough water. I wasn't getting enough calories. The lactation consultant, and my work provided a free lactation consultant, or it's part of our benefits, it's not free. So she was telling me, I thought I only needed an extra 200 calories. She was like, you need at least an extra 500 calories. So that was 2,500 calories. So I had lost my pregnancy weight by 4 weeks, and then by 6 weeks I weighed less than what I did before the pregnancy. So before I got pregnant, I was 163 pounds. By week 6, I was 148 pounds. So that was crazy. Sugar Bear's weight started to pick up at that point, but it was still slow because at 6 weeks we still had to go back in. Like, we weren't even at 2 months when he went in. I thought, okay, 2 months, we won't go back till he's 3 months. We had to go back 2 weeks later. So that was interesting. And then after that, we went to California, and so that helped me pick up weight, and he picked up weight. One, I was like, it was a last minute trip to California, so I had to eat all the food. My challenge to myself, I wanted to eat everything in my refrigerator before I left so I wouldn't waste any food. And then when I got there, my mom fed me really, really well. And I went out to eat. I went to my aunt's house. She had ordered Mexican food. Oh my God. Because Mexican food is not so great in New York, but in California is bussin'. So yes, I had that, and I had some soul food. I had a lot of good food. So I felt healthier and I stayed hydrated. So when we came back for his 3-month doctor's appointment, because he turned 3 months while we were there. He turned 3 months the Saturday before we flew back to New York. And he was already looking chunkier. He had a little chin, a little double chin going on. And so at the 3rd month, they were like, yeah, we won't see you again until the 4th month. So I was like, oh, finally. So we got over that hump. I had started doing power pumping at that point, which I'll explain that in my breastfeeding video, but that helped get my supply up as well. Before we went to California at the 4-week mark, sorry, I'm skipping around, I had to check in with the nephrologist. My blood work looked good. He wasn't worried about my creatinine. Everything went back to normal. He was like, yeah, they were really worried, but you don't have kidney disease. You just have one kidney. So yeah, I was so glad to have him, because we actually had to call him at one point in the hospital because they were trying to do all this other stuff to me, and I was like, y'all are tripping. Can we call my nephrologist? I went for my 6-week postpartum check. That's when I realized I had lost so much weight. I talked to the doctor. She was like, my torso discoloration is normal. So I have like, I don't even know what it's like, a motley brown on the top of my stomach, and then my chest is really dark. I know the nipples get dark, and the areola, so that helps the baby see them, because they see high contrast color or high contrast when they first get here. So I knew that was gonna be darker, but it had remained darker. She said it's gonna stay darker until I stop breastfeeding. And then I don't know I'll show you what this thing is on my stomach. And I do have this C-section pouch right here. I did not have that before, but I'll show you what this is looking like as far as discoloration. So that, I don't know, it kind of looks like dirty, but it's this, these actually came up right after. So this is when I had the reaction to the heparin. So I don't know, maybe if I do, and then you can see I lost all my pregnancy butt. So I had the cutest butt when I was pregnant. I was in love with it. I have this, oh wait, I was gonna show you the pouch. I have this, which I did not have before. So that is my scars right here. This part is still squishy, and this kind of like hangs over. So that is from the surgery. I did not have that before. And I think it's where like, basically where the stitches are, like that part is so tight. And then, I mean, immediately after, it looked really crazy because it was like swollen and squishy and fluidy. And so it's obviously it's gone down, but it still has that, I don't know, I'm gonna start exercise. We can get that. Oh, I had a pocket on the left side of my incision, and so I asked her about that, and she said it was where they tie the knot, and the abdomen is so swollen, like when it goes down it ends up being like a little pocket. She was like, it'll go away. It has gone away. So that was just in case you have a C-section and you worry about it. At first I thought it was like a hole, and she was like, no, it's a little pocket and blah blah blah. So period coming back, she was like, maybe, she was like, at your age it may never come back, or it'll come back after you finish breastfeeding, like full-time breastfeeding. So it hasn't come back. I don't know if it's because I'm breastfeeding or because of my age. TBD. She said, don't get a mammogram until I stop breastfeeding. She was like, it's not worth it and it'll be super painful. And so, yeah, I can start trying again when Sugar Bear is 9 months, as long as I have another C-section. If I want to try VBAC, I would have to wait longer because the uterus would need to heal more before going through labor, i.e. contractions, right? So of course I had to ask, right? He got a script for a hip x-ray. He had been breached at one point, and the way he presented, and he was in a weird position, which is why I ended up having the emergency C-section. So they were worried that he would have hip dysplasia, so we went and did an ultrasound at the hospital where he was delivered, and that came back fine. I was still power pumping daily at that point, and I also started having the postpartum doula come into the house. So she came in and like did laundry, everything, washed, folded, washed, dried, folded, did dishes, helped with the dogs, helped with Sugar Bear, did light cooking. I also cooked for her. So that was nice. I would definitely recommend having a postpartum doula when you first get home. Had I known, again, I was gonna have a C-section, I would have done that. So next time I'll definitely book a postpartum to like be here when I get home. It was so good to go to California. It boosted my mental. Like, I felt so much better being around family. We felt so loved. They made us feel famous. Like, seriously, everybody was happy to see us and just hugging and kissing and all that fun stuff. It was really, really nice. So I came back like emotionally restored, physically restored, because also there are eyes and hands. So he would be in the living room watching Miss Monica, like when I took a shower, but my mom would go in there and pick him up. My sister would check on him. It just was nice. I feel like it lifted something off my shoulders because I wasn't like, I'm the only one who can help him. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I went into the shower, it wasn't like I was like, I gotta do it in 2 minutes and get back out there. So it was nice. It was relaxing. We felt very loved. So it was also nice at home, like having positive things said. Sometimes you need that. There's a lot going on. You're hormonal. Like, drama is not what you need. Criticism is not what you need. Like, you need support. So I was grateful to go home and get that. I put on a few pounds while I was away, which was good. So my weight has been going up and down if I don't get enough calories. So I know I got to get the 2,500. And sometimes I do eat junk food, but I don't eat 500 calories worth of cookies. But I'll have like my milkshakes. I have them still now at least 3 times a week. I made brownies the other day. So some of it is indulgent, but for the most part, I try to eat nutrient dense food like kale, spinach, salmon, chicken, oxtails, which has collagen in it. So I got some short ribs I'm gonna make, but you know, I'm very much aware of I need to get calories in so that I can feed my child. Compared to the beginning of my 4th trimester, where I was like overwhelmed, emotional, getting nearer to the end, like getting to the 3-month mark, I was feeling better. Like, we had more of a routine. I felt like Sugar Bear and I knew each other better. I felt like I was able to feed him. I wasn't doubting what my body could do. I felt more grounded in my relationship with my son and as a new mom again, right? The time that I almost dropped the baby, I just cried. One, he has really strong legs, even when he was underweight. He was never off the charts, but that's what they were giving me. So he pushes up against my body, and obviously his head is heavier. So he pushed up against me, his head went back. I was getting down off of the bed, and all of that momentum together, he just kept going forward. Oh my God, it scared me so much. He's fine. But you know, then I'm a Taurus. I don't know if all Tauruses do that, but I ruminate. It just kept playing over and over and over in my head. So it was rough. It was rough in the beginning as far as my anxiety, my emotions, and just trying to feel like things were sorted out. What did I have for support in that, you know, in my 4th trimester? Because I think support is important. Figure out who your support system is going to be. Yeah, that's one. For my mental, I remained on my higher dose of Zoloft. I do have a diagnosed anxiety disorder, so I was on 50 milligrams before my pregnancy. It went up to 100 milligrams during my pregnancy, and then after, I still remain on 100 milligrams, even though I don't weigh as much as I did during my pregnancy, but it seems to like keep me even. I'd mistakenly, oh my God, for 1 week did not have my Zoloft, a little over a week, and oh my God, I couldn't wait to get it again. It takes 7 days for it to build back up in your system. And trust me, I could feel when Zoloft entered the chat. I increased my psychoanalysis to once a month. Before I was doing once every 3 months, which she's the person who evaluates how I'm doing on the meds and if I need more meds. And then I increased my talk therapy to every other week. I hadn't actually seen him since January. My MFM had recommended that I see somebody more regularly because just in case I had the blues, like, so somebody who would know, like, the postpartum blues or postpartum psychosis, God forbid, somebody, like, they had a baseline of what I was like before. And so that was it. So I've been seeing him once a month. I think in July I started seeing him again at the request of the woman who does the meds. She was like, you should see him more frequently. So I see him every other week, which has been a help. It's just nice to talk through things. And sometimes I feel like, I don't know if I'm a hypochondriac or super, I'm definitely dramatic. He brings me back where he's like, you know, I was freaking out about clutter in the house and like, this is some mental defect. And he was like, it could be, but it also could be like one of your things. Like, we all have our quirks. If you want to do something about it, you can change it, but you don't have to like give it a label. Because basically I was shaming myself. I mean, I do think there are things that I need to address. I just don't think it was as heightened as I was making it in my head. So yeah, I also stayed in contact with my doula, which helped as far as a support perspective, and she was the one who was like, I do postpartum care. And so
I was like, girl, get over here.
I met with the lactation consultant weekly until he was 4 months. Now I'm not going to meet with her again until we start my return to work plan. She's been helpful. Like, she helped me with diet, she sent me meal plans, and so that was helpful. Like, what can I get that's really calorie dense and also nutritionist? So that was helpful. Outlook on it all now, we survived. So it was a success in that regard. I'm mentally preparing for school and a sitter, so I'm having a little bit of anxiety about that, but I'm definitely starting to miss work. Like, SNL came back this weekend. I saw it on Saturday and I'm like, oh, I kind of want to be back in the building. You know, that's where I know I can like knock it out of the park. It's not as uncertain as being home with the newborn. You don't get a report card. Even at work, you don't get a report card, but you get a raise. You get a bonus, so you know if you're doing well. Here, I just get the satisfaction of shepherding a soul and praying that I'm doing it right. They've gone by quickly, these almost 6 months. They've gone by fairly quickly. I'm in love with this little human so much. I can't, and he's so happy. Like, he babbles and talks and just, oh my God, everything I prayed for. So if you are watching this and you're still in the wait, God has got you. Just trust, God has got you. I'm just happy to be his mom. I'm ecstatic to shepherd this little soul earthside, and so it's everything I prayed for and more. Yeah, I know some people have waited longer, some people have waited less. Like, it's all in God's timing. Delayed is not denied. And just oh yeah, I'm so grateful. All right, that is my 3rd and 4th trimester. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll talk to you later. Baby does to us all.